Fuck!
Fuck! Imagine somebody's like watching this with their kids.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We apologize for the rude language here. Welcome to DJs and Beers episode number 40 fucking 2.
40 fucking 2! What the fuck? Do you know how many beers that is?
A lot bit.
You know how many kilos that is?
That's at least 2 per episode for me.
Yeah.
At the minimum.
Do you know what we should have done is we should have like kept all of the cans and bottles.
Oh,
and,
no way.
and like each of us. And then when we finally are able to get together and do like an in-person DJs and Beers, it could be the basis of like the decor in the background, you know? We could have a wall of everything we've ever drunk.
I don't think my house is
I
big
still
enough.
have them all.
You have them all.
Downstairs. It's all downstairs.
Chris, Chris, I get the feeling that you're a klepto. You keep everything, huh?
Is that a klepto? A klepto is who steals everything.
No,
A hoarder. Yeah.
No, I'm not a hoarder. I mean, look around. I'm almost sitting in an empty apartment here.
Yeah, but you're hoarding somewhere. You're putting it somewhere. It's being hoarded somewhere.
I have nice stashes.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So,
guys, how's life?
Well, first of all, let's cheers.
Cheers.
What are you guys drinking?
cheers.
I'm
Shame
drinking.
on me. I'm drinking water.
I got a care package from my friend Brian at Stillwater Artisanals, so I must give a shout out to Brian at Stillwater for sending me the massive care package. And right now I'm drinking The Last Days of Disco. It's a classic farmhouse ale, and it's absolutely de-fucking-licious.
I got to give a shout out to this brewery. It's a new brewery called Radiant, and I told you guys in the chat, this guy, what was his name? Aaron. He lives down the street from me. I never met him. And
Best friends.
He works in this brewery, and he just like dropped off these beers on my porch a little while ago today. And he turns out to be a techno fan as well, which is kind of crazy. And
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, David.
I know. I'm gonna make really good friends with this dude.
You're not sure he's not a stalker and he's just moved there not by accident?
No.
I don't think David cares. As long as there's beer.
He's great looking can. Beer, I'm happy.
It's like a spray can.
Really cool can art.
Yeah.
And there's this brewer. I guess they used to work at a place called The Brewery. It's still around, but these guys started their own, and these are like their first.
They call it The Brewery.
Yeah.
You know what I don't get is I haven't really explored this or had much conversation with my sake friends about this, but why not sake in a can? Because
you can get it.
Obviously, the reason why it's in a can is to protect it from UV light, right?
Yeah.
Because it'll make it go bad. Same thing with sake. You want to keep it out of direct sunlight. So sake
might have a theory about that.
Yeah, what's the theory?
I think maybe sake breweries think if people see it in a can, they think it's cheap and they won't buy it.
Ali, I've drunk sake in New York in a can. At this very famous
can or a 1 cup?
No, in a can. It's a small can. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. But yeah.
Maybe I've even seen it in Japan in like the 7-Elevens in a small like ozeki or something, but I can't remember right now. But for anybody brewing sake, let us know.
Canned sake. But would you agree with my theory? Do you think that's what it could be? Like they're probably like, I mean, what looks more appealing in a nice big sake bottle or a can?
Yes, but what's happening with the artwork on a lot of these like artisanal boutique, that the artisanal boutique breweries are employing is like, it's really, it looks beautiful even in a can,
It's really dope.
If this was sake, I'd pick it up off the shelf.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's a big thing.
I think we're making Matt feel really. Oh, he's got the.
This is apparently one of the best isotonic drinks you can actually drink. Apparently, they give it to the German football team.
Yeah, Weizenbier, alcohol free. Weizenbier, wheat beer. That's really good. That's really good.
Hey Matt, psychologically, do you kind of trick your mind into thinking that you're drinking beer, even though you're not getting?
This is actually, I mean, I was buying alcohol-free beers, but over the last week, I've stopped just drinking any beer, and I'm just drinking tea. So, and I'm kind of like, I think I'm losing this sort of urge, the sugar fix that I was getting from alcohol as well. So, which is good.
Is that your English heritage, the tea thing?
No. I mean, I'm drinking ginger tea. I mean, I'm not drinking like English PG tips or something, but occasionally. But,
they were good. I remember those times with PG tips when I visited London.
I do love a good biscuit, tea and biscuits.
Having a split and a PG tip is good.
Matt, being an Englishman, do you prefer like black tea with milk, or do you prefer like herbal teas without?
I like black tea with milk, but I mean that's the sort of done thing. But I mean, I these days I'm making a lot of ginger and lemon tea, drinking it through the day. That kind of vibe. Even if it gets cold, it's actually nice. So
Yeah, I never understood the milk in black tea. I never understood it. It's not like it's bad. I've had it before, obviously,
yeah,
but I've never like it. Just
Yeah.
seems like it's wrong, you know.
yeah.
Matt, you're in Berlin. How's the temperature?
It's been actually it's cold. I mean, I think today's been the warmest day in the last like 5 or 6 days, but I think this weekend it might go down to like -13 or something. But every day it's been around -6, -9. There's snow on the ground. Yeah, it's nice. I like it. It feels like a proper winter for a change. Feels like the mid to late 2000, well, the early 2000s when you'd get proper winters, you know, in Berlin, get proper snow. So
I think now it's just like everything just shifted. Like, you know, winters are now like starting in February and going into.
But I think they've had, like in the Alps, I think they've had some of the biggest snowfall for years. And my friend was saying maybe because there's less planes in the sky, less air pollution, stuff like that is causing colder winters. I don't know.
Chris?
Chris, how's Tulum? I think there's a typo that says Frankfurt there. You're in Tulum, right? No?
I'm in Tulum. Shh, don't tell anyone. I'm in a super
How
spread.
many gigs did you play, Chris?
Psst, don't tell anyone. No, I am in Frankfurt. I'm gonna go back to Switzerland tomorrow. I had to come back to do some stuff, and I actually just recorded a stream just before the show. So I'm just still in dancing mode.
Oh, for Danny, for DJ.
Yeah, Danny Tenaglio's 60th birthday, and he's gonna have like this virtual birthday party, and I'm not sure if anyone of you got asked to contribute. Oh, one.
That was my last stream that I recorded in Barcelona. Actually,
it's an hour set. It was a lot of fun to do it just right now, because it was like I set everything up again downstairs, you know, and the lights, and I had some fog going, and I was dancing by myself down there. It was a lot of fun again. I so enjoyed that.
Chris, did you feel like an hour just wasn't enough for you to express your full musical potential?
It was kind of a warm up. I might even after this show go down and record another one, just like because I'm going back to Switzerland and I want to do another Alone Together stream at some point. Hi guys, hi community. Well, don't forget that. But since going back and forth so many times lately, because I had to do various things, I didn't have the time to do this. So I might record one, which I'm gonna broadcast then later on.
Did you play like a birthday? Was it like a classic set for Danny? Or?
Yeah, I picked out some classics and stuff. It was fun.
Nice. Yeah, we need to get him back on the show for round 2.
Absolutely, we need to. Yeah, I finished off with music is the answer. Woo. So good.
Wow.
Damn.
So good.
Yeah, Danny's turning 60.
Yep.
Gives us all hope.
Really? Hope. What is that again? Hope.
What's hope?
Hey, by the way, Ali, DC, how's the vibe there? I mean, I've been really busy in the past couple of days, but I tried to watch a little bit of the
impeachment
impeachment trial, and I have to say it's insane. I mean, I've watched yesterday, and by watching it, I realized how, and I don't think this is an overstatement, how close the world was to fall into chaos. I mean, this was literally so close that most of the senators, or a lot of senators and a lot of House members and the staff would have been killed. I mean, the mob that went in there, they would have killed anyone that could have gotten their hands on, besides maybe Ted Cruz and all the other crazy senators. But I mean, imagine that would have happened. There would have been such a vacuum of power in the most powerful country in the world, in the capital, in the fucking capital, is so incredibly close. And when you watch the whole timeline and what happened, you really, I was stunned last night. I was like, what? This was so close. This was like, it was like the Cuba crisis, you know, close.
It was close, but I don't think they would have ever allowed it to get to that point where you're thinking.
But there was no one to to prevent it in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, look,
because they deliberately kept the troops low.
All of these buildings are in DC are interconnected. I know this because my friend used to work for a phone company, and he was always doing the cabling work in all the government buildings in DC. And he told me that all of them, White House, Capitol, everything is interconnected. They have underground,
But they couldn't access the underground. They were trapped in their offices and stuff.
No, that's just the Senate. Crazy. But for sure, there was SWAT and other people on standby, ready to move if given the signal.
That was the thing. There wasn't. Yeah. It was crazy.
I mean, I was watching it yesterday too, just in the background. I couldn't believe it's in this day and age. But like we kind of mirror. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't understand how Trump got into power to begin with. And I'm not surprised that what happened as a result of him being.
I think I know. I think Lauren actually answered that question on our last 2 weeks ago on our show. It's a lack of education in loads of rural parts of America.
Yeah.
And that just keeps people like uneducated, and they believe anything.
I mean, maybe our society here, we mirror the elected officials, like we put these people in power. Maybe that's reflecting who we are as Americans, the kind of people that we're electing to power. Because obviously if we weren't that way, we would be electing the right people,
But don't you feel like sometimes, like Bernie Sanders, for instance, don't you think he was kind of screwed over somehow? Like he could have.
Totally. I think everybody does.
So
yeah.
So you can't be a complete representation of who we put, because like.
Well, it's about majority, right?
There's people at the top that also influence things, and
sure, yeah,
stuff. I mean, obviously, stuff way out of our control. Like it's just not that I'm trying to be some conspiracy theorist, but
no, for sure. I think everybody believes that Bernie got screwed by his own party.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Just when there's big money at play, anything could change or it can go a certain way,
Yeah.
Like the whole shit.
By the way, Mo is not with us today.
No.
Oh yes, not Mo today. He's got some other engagements to attend to.
He's busy.
Yeah.
Hi Mo, if you're watching.
Ali, how are your gigs? Are you gigging this weekend? Are you back on the road?
Back on the road. It's a long, strange road. No, not really back on the road. Just have the odd gigs here and there. I was in Florida last weekend. I played in Orlando, and over Super Bowl weekend, and then I played in Fort Lauderdale, and then.
And how was it? How was it going? Like the first gig you did with were there precautions, like, or what was in place regarding?
Yeah, I mean, all the DJ booths that I've played in so far, they all have plexiglass.
Oh, right. Okay.
Completely surrounding the booth, so you're like kind of completely closed off,
right,
from people, whether you're in a DJ booth or on a stage. Certain cities like Austin, for instance, masks were mandatory. And they were being strictly enforced. They do temperature checks when people come in. There's no rapid on-site testing or anything like that.
What about like outside? I mean, was it people just hanging out outside? I mean, were people wearing masks? Or
I mean, Orlando, the streets of Orlando, it was like rammed with people. Many not wearing masks.
Were you also
in Tampa? Funny that in some parts of the world there seems to be no pandemic.
Were you also in Tampa, Ali?
No, I didn't go to Tampa, but a lot of DJs played in Tampa, and there was a lot of riffraff in Tampa.
You went
walking around with no masks, huh?
And you went to Marco's party, did you, in the Space?
I went to Marco's party at Space, which was great.
And how many did they have for just one room open, or were there, or how did it?
Yeah, they were showing the Super Bowl in the main room, and then Marco was playing like 10 hours. He played.
And what was the situation upstairs regarding like dancing and?
Well, you have to wear a mask to go to the bathroom or walk around.
Okay.
It's all tables, so you have to have booked a table or be part of a table.
Okay. Does he have tables in the DJ booth for all of the groupies?
No, there are no tables in the DJ booth.
There's just tables on the dance floor.
The real parties
on the
the whole dance floor is gone. It's just all tables.
Wow.
What?
So the real party's in the DJ booth.
Real parties in DJ booth. That's where I was.
I honestly thought space would be just like wide open. I didn't realize it was going to be the tables thing. I thought it was just going to be like a free for all.
Space is owned by they open I think 6 a.m. They're only open a few days a week. On this particular day, and normally I think they open at 6 a.m. and they have to shut by midnight.
Oh,
The same day.
That's still a long ass time.
That's a long ass time, yeah.
6 a.m. to midnight, damn.
Yeah.
And it's like full the whole time.
It was pretty full, you know.
Oh.
Everybody, they gotta, you know, they can't stay locked in forever. They assume the risk and they go out, and you know, many were wearing masks. I saw, so there's a lot of people that
it's not
want to go out and be around other people. I had people crying, like telling me it was the first time that they went out, like over the weekend. They were visibly all emotional, men and women. You know, it was like the first.
But it's all locals, I guess. There's no one holidaying there, I guess. So.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people on holiday right now in Florida.
Yeah, but only Americans. There's no foreign.
There's no foreigners. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because I know some Americans from other states that are in Florida just to party.
Yeah. I mean, I'm.
So.
Well, we never met, but how you doing, man? Nice to meet you.
What's up? And
actually, I've never met Pierre either. We've
I've never met Pierre.
We've never met
in
into
person.
Matt, what about you?
I think we met in Castellare in this pizza restaurant in Berlin.
Oh yeah. We did. We for 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Pierre, you're looking younger every time I see you. What's your secret, man?
You know what? That's good. That's good. I'm trying to get rid of that background I got, and I don't know how to do it.
It's a virtual
no background. Select no background.
Now you're sitting in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, exactly. No.
Pierre, do you have your phone? You have your phone like this?
There you
want to put your phone horizontal? Maybe is it your phone that?
Oh,
you're doing
you know what? I would have done that, but every Zoom I've had up until now, I've had to turn my phone. So I sat here. You had me all 20 minutes trying to fix the phone like this. And now you say turn it like that. Okay.
You could leave it either way. It's good to see it.
Take your time. We got hours. Don't worry.
It's like I had to prop the phone up. Here, let's see. Hold on. See, I put it on
there we go.
Thing. Here, I gotta click on my screen so I can see.
We see more of you. That's great.
Pierre, you are in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And I know your real name is it's Nathaniel. But
who told you that? No.
but how many people still call you like Nathaniel? Does everybody just call you Pierre?
No one calls me Nathaniel.
Okay. Cool.
No one actually. Okay. My girlfriend calls me Nathaniel, but before that, even my parents didn't call me Nathaniel. They called me Nat, as that is my kind of like nickname, you know. All right, I think I'm getting it.
I'm sorry, I've caused so much hassle here now.
It took him 20 minutes just to get it the other way. He was ready.
You know what? I'm not used to. Well, see, now it's too late. All right.
But I love it that you got the 303 shirt on.
Yeah. Well, you know, I did especially for this meeting because I knew we're all tied to that history. In terms of I talk to people and they say, "Oh man, how does it feel to be, this person that did this or did that?" And you know what? It seems it's more like a whole. More of a thing that's kind of feels to me. It feels like a group of us spiritually connected behind a sound and a movement. And when I say a group of us, I mean all the thousands of people that happened in like 87, and we all just linked to this sound.
Yeah.
Which incorporated more than just I would say acid house.
Yeah.
Although I think house music and techno needed that brand name that had the smiley, and it was branding at its best, and we had no idea. It just happened automatically. You know, it had a face to it, it had a cool name, and then it was like, yeah, it just happened.
Can you tell us a little bit about your beginning, like directly? Let's shoot.
Well, in terms of like making music and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Pierre, did you? I'll try to be more specific than Chris.
Right, because it's too much.
You started? Did you start by wanting to make music, or was it DJ culture? And did you start alone, or did you start with Herb J and Spanky? Was that the first musical project that you embarked on?
Spanky and Herb was the first musical project in terms of creating original music, but I started as a DJ. I DJ, like I had these little break dancing groups, you know.
Yeah, me too.
I was scratching, I'm doing all that stuff, you know, African Bombada, Rappers Delight, Sugar Hill Gang, you know, all those jokers like that. So I started out like that. And then I soon got into like Italio disco and industrial and stuff like that. I got into the sound of the industrial sound of Germany in terms of like those groups that I can't even say the names to, but you
in Chicago had Wax Trax Records, and a lot of those groups were you know, their music was being released on Wax Trax, and we had Hiroko Yamamura on recently where we were talking about kind of that era. Was that era did it serve as an influence? Because some of the future stuff was quite industrial, for lack of a better.
I was heavily into just like we used to play that Los Niños track, and I like that whole album. I would listen to the whole album, and then I would play. Remember that and somebody, it rains even harder now.
And Clark.
And Clark.
Yeah, that song was crazy.
Yeah.
So, were you talking about Einstürzende Neubauten and stuff like this?
Probably.
Yeah, what was it? It was a group, Liaison Dangereux, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yes. So I was into that, and then Donna Summer, I love that track. It is funny, like when I was remixing Acid track just the past like 2 years ago, I started to think, hey, this makes me feel like Donna Summer. I feel love. Like the I was like, hey, it feels like that. And that's how I ended up making the track Acid Love, because I was like thinking, and then it made me reflect on all of my influences, saying, okay, these things played a big part. Yeah. But the biggest influence was probably Ron Hardy, because he made us feel like that it was okay, because he played that stuff. He played those imports, and he played that radical music, and he also played faster. So whereas Frankie Knuckles, he was so extra musical, and I was never really big on house music in terms of the slow stuff. Yeah, I was always more the track stuff and the faster stuff, or if it's disco, the faster ones with the edits and all that kind of stuff.
And was the music box where Ron Hardy was at, was that going on at the same time as the warehouse where Frankie was a resident, or did Ron's residency begin first?
Frankie's
to those people who might wonder, we're talking about early Chicago history, right?
Oh yeah, so people are in here. Hey everybody, all right. So but what happened was, is like Frankie started first, came from New York. Ron is from Los Angeles, and then he came over after, but they knew each other. And so Ron was more radical. So he was, a lot of the people that was just getting into the warehouse sound found a home at the music box, because house music was starting with tracks and stuff like that. and Ron was playing that stuff. Whereas
he was
playing a lot of that stuff.
He was playing a lot of tracky stuff from what I...
a lot of tracky stuff. And I've never been to the warehouse. I guess I'm a little bit after the warehouse age of people or something.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Pierre, do you know, was Ron DJing then when he was in LA, or did he come when he was, how old was
he? He must have been. Must have been. And I only know about that part of the story because Spanky told me. Because Spanky was already going to the music box when I met Spanky. I mean, he was going quite young, and him and I was in high school, and he would always tell me, man, we can make this music. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, they got this box. He kept saying this box that makes that has drum sounds in it, and you can make beats with it. And I was like thinking, what the heck, a box? I don't get it, a box. I said, what? I mean, I don't understand it. Because I played in orchestra, I played in band. So I played musical instruments and I played the drums. And I was thinking, I said, but how big is that box? Because I didn't even get it. I would lay up at night in the bed and look up at the ceiling, imagining what that box must look like. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. A box that has drums. I was like, he didn't give me no information besides that. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So one day he just said, I got it. I said, what? The drum machine. I was like, he said, come over to my house. And I went over there, and it was like a Dr. Rhythm type thing or something, something really like, beginners type of situation. But once I was pressing the buttons, I just like, oh, okay, yeah, there they are. I hear the drums in there. And then from that point on, I would just mix in the beats when I would DJ. So I guess I was doing a hybrid set back then. So I'll be mixing in drum beats and stuff and playing acapellas over them and everything.
Wow.
So when was the first time that you touched the 303? You must have told that story a million times, but please tell us.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I haven't told it to you guys. So the thing is, so the whole point of getting the 303 was because I don't know if people understand, but we hated to sound like someone else. Like everybody in Chicago at that point in time was always trying to find their niche. And if you sounded like someone else, you got dissed. You weren't going to get put on. They were going to say, oh, you sound like Larry Heard, or you sound like this person, or you sound like that person. So Spanky and I kept making music, and we kept saying, but it doesn't sound like it sounds like this person or that person. I was like saying, yeah, we got to have something that's us, that makes us different. And so when I heard the 303 only because I went to a friend's house and he had the 303. And so the bass line was playing. And I said, oh, I like the grittiness of that bass line. It was a bass line that was like Too Far Gone type of bass line, playing. Yeah. And I was listening and I was like, that sounds really like rubbery. I said, it sounds thick. I said, I think if we had that, we need that. I think if we had that, we could do something with it. And I don't even know about acid or anything. I never even touched it. I didn't touch this thing and say, wow, it does this. I just thought it was going to be good for bass lines. So
and this is like early 80s, right? Like
no,
80...
this is actually mid 80s.
Oh, mid 80s. Okay. Mid 80s.
Yeah, 85.
Yeah.
And I told Spanky about it. And Spanky had heard it, and then let me just disclose this. I always had no money, so I was the DJ in Starving Artists. Spanky always worked a job. Him and her always worked a job. They say, hey, I got to work the jobs because I got to get the girls and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So they would get equipment and just leave it at my house. Yeah. And I'll just be working on music all the time. But so when he got it, he came through with it, and then we just started messing with it. And I just remember so I played in jazz band. So when I was messing with the 303, and I noticed that it was doing stuff, like when I twist the knob, it will make the sound go a certain type of way. So I found it intriguing that I can control it like that, versus the only way controlling stuff was to play notes. So I was thinking, oh wow, I can just do this. And so I started figuring out what different knobs, how it would work the sound. And so I would just start to fill it and just twist knobs and do stuff. And I remember while I was doing that, lost in my world of just thinking about how I feel about it, Spanky was like, yo, Pierre, keep doing that. Keep doing it. Just keep doing that right there. And I was like, okay. So then that was more empowering. So I just started like thinking, okay, this must be something. Mm-hmm. So I did that. And next thing you know, we that day we recorded Acid Track. Wow. So and it was really long because we just hit record and it just was doing it for a long time. Yeah. And Spanky was making a beat as I was twisting the knobs and stuff. And then when we finished, we said, wow, this could be something. And then I was like, but who would play this? And that's when Ron Hardy came into play, because if he didn't play that, there would be no Acid, because no one was going to play that track. Like, it wasn't like something someone heard, and him and Frankie were like the most influential DJs then. So if they didn't drop it, I don't know. So really, Ron is very key into all this.
And
why did you call it Acid Track?
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the question. Where did the acid name come from?
Yeah. You guys gonna think I'm nuts, but trust me, I did not know acid had anything to do with drugs. I did not, because I grew up pretty sheltered, and I grew up in the suburbs, so I was like an hour outside of Chicago. Yeah. So I wasn't around any type of drug situations besides marijuana, most likely. Yeah. So when I've already heard of acid jazz and acid rock, I didn't know that was connected to any drugs. So I just thought, oh, okay. People are calling, because what happened was the track got popular in the music box, and then the message got back to me that Ron Hardy got this new track called Ron Hardy's Acid Track. And I was like, oh, I gotta hear that. And so a friend came by with it on a micro cassette player, because people would sneak in there and record his sets. And so he played it. And then I heard the track coming in. I was like, hey, I said, that's the track? He said, yeah, that's Ron Hardy's Acid Track. I said, that's not Ron's track. I said, that's our track. We made that track. He was like, y'all ain't make that track. I said, no, we made that track. And so I had my cassette with me. I said, I got it right here. I said, put it in. And he played it. He was like, wow. He said, man, everybody's big on that track. They calling it Ron Hardy's Acid Track. So I just told Spanky, I said, hey, man, we got to call this Acid Track. We just take Ron Hardy off. And then that's how it became Acid Track.
So I mean, just imagine, sorry, Ali, but just imagine you would have been there for the first time in world history listening to an Acid Track.
Yeah.
Like in that, like, wow. Wow.
It was crazy. Chris, you wouldn't know what to do, because you know what? Well, maybe you guys heard it a little bit in the beginning, but if you already knew it was an accepted thing, imagine how listening to it for the first time. Yeah. Because the people were like, first, when I played it for Ron, he just stood there with no, he stood there looking like, sort of like how Chris is looking right now. He's just looking like just a straight face. And we're thinking like, does he like it? He's not nodding his head. He's not doing anything. And the track was 15 minutes long. Yeah. So that's 15 minutes uncomfortable with this man not doing anything. And then when it ended, he said, when can I get a copy? And we was thinking, oh, yeah. Dude, you can have that one. Yeah. We let him have that one. And then he dropped. It was really early. It was kind of sparse up in there, but he played it and we were happy. And then, we thought that was it. We were like thinking, man, that was great. He played it. Then he played it again when it was like a third full. And we were like, oh, wow, he's playing it again. And the people were looking like, what is this track? And okay, we don't know what's going on. And so they just kind of like, just looked around on it. And he only played it for like maybe a minute. And then he played it again when it was packed. And the people couldn't stop dancing. They couldn't clear the floor. So they just kind of like, okay, this track, And I don't know, he played it, before, but okay, he only played for another minute. And then he went out of it. And then he played it the fourth time. And then it was like outrageous because when he brought it, he played it, and then he didn't bring it in all the way. And then he slammed it in, and then people just went crazy because that guy was a genius. He knew that he couldn't just bring it in. He had to keep teasing them so they got used to it, so they can start feeling like, okay, this is something right here. And then he let it come in all the way. And people didn't know how to dance though. They were doing the dumbest stuff. Like they were like this one guy.
The acid dance.
Right. You know what? They were doing that. Whatever that is. They was laying on their back, punching their fists in the air, kicking their legs up. And people were started slam dancing. And it was just like pandemonium. And so I thought like, wow, this is crazy. And that's our track. And you fast forward to today, besides playing a track 4 times in one night, it's just that that was really smart what he did.
Yeah. What a moment in music history you're just describing there.
Yeah, we've talked about this on the show in terms of like how a lot of the DJs that I grew up listening to, how they would break records. It was like if there's a particular record that you really believe strongly in, maybe you felt like the crowd weren't going to accept it with just one listen. That's how you broke the record. You played it multiple times. And I think we talked about this on this show. And then Chris, you did that that same weekend when you did one of your streams, right? And you came back and you were like, oh, it was great playing.
What, you can play a track more than once in a night in a set? That is allowed?
Well, sometimes I do it and I don't realize I do it. I'm like, I get a bunch of tracks, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the hot track. I play it, and then I'm going through my tracks. Oh, I'm gonna drop this one. So I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I play this? I'm like, oh well, whatever.
So did the term acid just come from people at the clubs that heard the music? Like, where did they even come up with that name for that? It's kind of
okay. So the rumor is that in the club, Ron Hardy, or whoever, don't let me say Ron Hardy did it, but there was like they had water in like a dispenser, and then supposedly acid taps was put in the water to make the people get extra into the music. That's the rumor. I never drank the water, so I don't know.
So Pierre, like what was it like? You made it in the bedroom, I assume. You guys didn't have like a fancy studio. You made it in the bedroom, and the first time you hear it, like this particular night where you hear 4 times, what is that feeling like when you're hearing those sounds and those patterns on this massive system, knowing that you guys are the creators of this new sound that nobody had ever heard before? I mean, it's kind of like being exposed to a new genre like punk rock or whatever. Nobody ever forgets where they were and how that made them feel.
Right? No one thought of it as a new sound. That's the thing. We just thought of it as our thing, but not like it was going to be a thing. Just like Larry Heard got his sound, Marshall had his sound, and we were just thinking this is our sound. So we never imagined anything like what happened. So when we heard it, we were just crazy and hype about the fact that our track was being played by Ron, and that the people were going crazy for it. And we had no, like, just leaving there, that's the only place it went. And we were thinking, okay, good. Now we're going to make tracks with this machine, and we're going to make that sound, and people are going to be like, that's future sound. That's film. Yeah. We never imagined that other people were going to. First of all, we never told people what we made it on. They were like, oh, how'd you do that? The Juno 106. It was this move device. We kept telling them all sorts of different stories.
You didn't want them to bite your stuff.
No, we didn't want them taking our sound. And then so next thing you know, I heard this track and our heart dropped because I would hear other tracks. I'm like, nah, that ain't it. Nah, that ain't no 303. Then I heard 151. And I was like, our heart just sunk. It's like, that's the 303. And it sounded amazing. I was like,
Yeah.
And so that was it. And you know how that got out? Because Marshall went in the studio with us and told people what we made it on. And then he himself put it in Lost Control. Because Lost Control was just drums. It had nothing in it but drums. Ron used to play it all the time. Just drums. Then it came out on a record and the 303 was it. And that was after Marshall put us in a studio. I was like, hey, Marshall, put the 303 on it. And then everybody knew what it was.
Funny anecdote. I played with Marshall Jefferson at the Hacienda back in the day. So
wow.
Yeah.
I made a record with Marshall.
Oh yeah.
In 96, he came to my little studio, which I had in a little village, like 80 kilometers north of Frankfurt, and he stayed with me for a week, and we made the famous track "Mushrooms." It's called Noosa Heads Mushrooms. That's us. It was released on Soap Records back in the days.
I didn't know that was you guys. Wow, I didn't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, he was telling the story where he ate mushrooms in Miami, and I just recorded him, and we just made a track out of this. So it was fun. It was good old times with Marshall. Yeah.
Wow.
That record is one of the.
So Marshall is the one who spoiled the whole 303 thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever consider your music with the 303 and the acid as a part of house music, or were you like, this is a completely different thing?
It was, I consider it as a part of house. See, the thing that most people don't understand, which I'm sure Ali could attest to, is that in the US, there was no acid house scene. You heard the acid tracks being played within a house party, but you never heard like it was no acid house party where it's just like all these. So it wasn't no acid house. Acid house really was a genre that developed in the UK in terms of acid music. We never seen it as nothing but just another type of thing within house music, like Detroit techno, you know. And then that's those, and then it still was an acid house. It's like it was just an acid. Oh, that's one of those acid tracks. Everything was an acid track.
And Pierre, like in those days at the, at the Music Box, the DJ booth that Ron was in, was it a hangout for friends and all those early pioneering producers in Chicago, or was he completely sectioned off in a closed booth? And you guys, all these incredible, this wave of talent from Chicago, they're just going and they're getting lost in the music on the dance floor. Is that
people were? Ron was in his booth, which was definitely closed off in terms of you weren't going to be able to get in there. You had to go through another door that wasn't even accessible from the dance floor.
Yeah.
And then he would normally be in there by himself. I might have seen someone come in there only to give him something or do something, but he was never there. It was never people like hanging out. He didn't have like friends or girls up in there in a booth and stuff.
Not like today, right?
Nobody's taking pictures. But he was there by himself. But what happened is, this is the thing that made me love Ron Hardy. So Spanky used to come. I used to play I used to have my garage. So a garage was a detached from the house. When I used to practice DJing, my equipment was in the garage and I would be DJing. And then a lot of times it'd turn into a party. Like people would just end up coming over and it'd be like 30 or 40 people just there.
Which is probably what's happening these days, but
yeah. So I was doing that and Spanky was like, okay, play this song. And I was like, what's that? He said, this track, they love it in the Music Box. And so in my mind, I'm thinking he's bringing over some tracks. So he brought like I Can't Turn Around by Isaac Hayes. And I was like, okay. I said, this is kind of old. And this is before I ever went to the Music Box. I said, they listen to this? He said, yeah, they go crazy for this. He said, play it. I'm like, you want me to play this right now okay, all right. Then I'm like, well, I was like trying to mix it. I say, hey man, this thing is off beat. Like this drummer, he's not on beat and stuff. He said, man, you gotta learn how to do that. You gotta learn how to do that, man. That's in Chicago. You want to play house music? That's what he always tell me. Yeah. I was like saying, okay, I'm trying to mix this record in. It's a mess. And then so it comes in, and I'm like, listen, I was like, I don't like this song. I just remember feeling like I don't like this song. Mm. So he said, you know what? You just got to come to the music box. I can't explain it to you. You have to come. I'm telling you, you just got to go. So he brought me to the music box, and it was incredible because when I got there, I'm like listening, and people are going crazy for this guy. They're screaming his name, they're yelling, and I'm thinking like, wow, I never got this reaction. These people going nuts. And so by the end of the night, I was hyped. I was like, I stopped scratching. I need no more scratching. I was like, yo, scratching is dead. I was like, we got to mix this stuff in. So I started getting those tracks, and I discovered the secret to how those guys mix those tracks because they know them inside and out. They understood when the feeling come on with the drummer, it speeds up. It just does. You know? And you just anticipate the speed up by slowing it down and then putting the pitch back. So I didn't even know any of that stuff. And then once you understand and know the nuances of the tracks, then is much easier.
Were you following what was happening, with the stuff that was being released on like DJ International, like the hip house?
Yeah.
So you had like the whole Wax Tracks thing, the industrial thing that was going on. You had like, what you guys were creating. You had the whole hip house thing. You had like the houseier, the deeper houseier end of the spectrum that was also going on.
And Kraftwerk. So Kraftwerk was one of my favorite groups coming up because even before house music was a thing, they had these people that did this dance called stepping. And stepping was kind of like a dance that was to a little bit slower beat, but kind of like a groovy beat. And for some reason, they will always dance to that Doggy Donut track. And they were like, don't, and they would just do this dance. And I was like, probably like 12 or something. I would be just like, oh, wow. I'm like, look at them stepping and stuff. So, and the guys that were stepping were like thugs. I'm like, okay, these dudes, they'll cut you, but look how they grooving though. They like Snoop Dogg or something, they like, dun, 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 dun. So we were really looking up at them and looking up to those guys. And then I started tracking like the groups that made that music and stuff. And of course, one of them was Kraftwerk. So I loved all Kraftwerk stuff.
And like what about what was happening on radio? Was that like a huge outlet besides the music that you could give to someone like Ron Hardy to play in the clubs, which started to send your signal out everywhere around the world, beginning with the scene in Chicago and then Detroit and stuff, New York. Was radio also a big influence on you, and did you use radio to get your music heard by as many people, and did it help at that time?
And if I may add, because we had Alan Oldham on, and I learned that Detroit had quite a radio scene that were very influential, also with Jeff Mills's show. Did you have something similar in Chicago then?
I mean, I guess later on we had our mix shows that came on, like we had Hot a lunch mix, and then the Hot Mix 5 had their shows, even though that stuff was considered commercial, like because we used to always talk about how they mix, their mixes were too static, too perfect, and everything was gridded out. It was like, okay, the 16-bar break, here it comes, boosh, and then out. And then in, and so we'd be like, that's all structured and stuff. But you did want them to play your tracks. So I would go to the radio station. That was when you could just show up at the radio station. I'd be like, yo, I'm here. you know, so let me in. You know, so I'll just go in there and give something to Farley when he's on the radio, and he'll just drop it.
So Pierre, when you gave Ron the acid tracks, was that on a tape or was it acetate? What was it?
It was a cassette.
Wow.
Yeah, acetate, man. Dude, you kidding me? We put stuff on 4-track, and that was that. And we was like, hey, man, and from the last time we used it, because we got to erase over that other tape, you know. So we were going through issues trying to get stuff out there.
So how long from when he played it was it cut to vinyl and was it put out?
Man, it was.
I think he was playing it. I read he was playing it in '85, and
yeah,
and it came out in '87, right?
87. Yeah, it got released. So it took a long time before it even got signed.
So was it passed around a lot?
Wow.
Did quite a lot of people have it by then? I mean, if it was on tape, I mean, or was it just Ron? Was he the only guy? And then your crew?
Just Ron had it. I know, some people may have somehow gotten a copy of it, but for the most part, that whole time Ron was playing it, no one else had a copy of it besides myself. But what happened was remember back then, the longevity of, it was tons of tracks that never came out like until later, like a lot of Larry Heard and Fingers tracks. So it was a little bit, you were used to that, like just knowing music that wasn't out on wax. And then it would just come out of, you didn't know it was coming out. You just find out, oh, that one track is out. Like you didn't hear, oh, it's coming out next month or so. He didn't hear, it wasn't no scene talking about what was upcoming or anything. You just found out at the record shop and stuff.
Was Ron like just holding on to that track because he wanted it to be the only DJ playing it and having it, or was there a reason he held on to it for so long?
It was that creed. When you give something to them, that's his thing. He ain't giving away his jewels. He's not gonna give away something that gives him a big reaction to another DJ. So, and you knew when you gave it to Ron that he wasn't going to give it to no one else. You know that he wouldn't let it go.
And Pierre, were you friends with Larry Heard and a lot of these other guys? Were you guys hanging out? Was there a community of artists that were all hanging out and sharing creative ideas and working or helping each other in the studio and tipping each other off to new,
none of that.
No,
none of that really happened. I didn't know Larry Heard, or the only people I see being from the suburbs, I was still like an outcast. So they used to complain about me because like they accepted Ron Hardy playing the way he played, but it's like they didn't want to accept no one else playing like that, like playing the stuff faster and all this stuff. Acid Tracks was 128 when I made it. And Marshall made me slow that thing down to like 120 or something. He's like, Pierre, they're not going to play it in New York. They're not going to play it in New York. He said, you want them to play it? Let them pitch it up. Let them pitch it up. That's what he was saying.
How fast was Ron playing at the Music Box?
Yo, he was playing stuff fast. Like if some of those disco joints are pretty quick. Like, and then he was just fast anyway. He was just having the stuff flying. I would hear the original versions and be like, wow, this is really slow. Like, I had no idea. So he was always pumping that stuff.
Yeah, I think it was to increase the energy level of the room and of the music and stuff. You play it faster. Sometimes you may lose not with all tracks, but with certain tracks, you lose the funkiness. You lose the groove. But
So Pierre, was the version that actually came out on vinyl? That was the original version you made back in '85. Then, right? That was
the one that came on vinyl.
Yeah. When it came out, I know we recorded it.
Yeah, we recorded that in the basement of a church, actually.
Okay, wow.
They had, because back then churches had like a little studio type of things.
Okay.
So Marshall took us to this church and we recorded it. And actually, so Marshall, the one of the bigger part of the story about Future, besides Acid, is even how the harmonizer became a thing with Future, because everybody kept associating acid tracks with drugs. I thought because I thought it was just the chemical grittiness. I thought, oh, it's a chemical and it's really gritty, it'll burn you and all this stuff. But it was like, okay, let me make a track that's kind of like the opposite. So that's what I made Your Only Friend. So I had wrote that track, and I thought, okay, so this is going to be on the same record, and that's going to be like an EP, and people are going to be like, oh, okay, you know, it's really not about, you know, this group is kind of standing for this. It's not, they're not really pushing drugs or anything. But so when we did the track, I originally said the vocals, and Marshall's like, Pierre, I don't think people are gonna believe that that's the voice of Cocaine. He said, we need to get Spanky to do the vocals. And so I was like, okay. And then he said, okay, and I'm gonna put Spanky's voice through this thing, and it's gonna really sound dark, like it could be Cocaine speaking. And then when he did it, we were like, oh yeah, that sounds good. So he was the first person that even gave us the idea to use the harmonizing and to make the voice deep. And ever since then, we just kept a blueprint in terms of, okay, so Future, this is what Future is going to be. It's going to be this voice, and then it's going to be the acid, and then it's also going to be it's also going to be very connected to social issues in terms of speaking about stuff going on in the world or whatever. So that's why a lot of Future tracks has always had more of a heavier content to the vocal part.
So I've just got one more question about the acid tracks. I mean, have you got the original version then? Have you got the first version you made? No, fuck.
Somebody got to have it.
I want to hear it.
I want to hear it too, man. I haven't heard that.
Well, how different, Pierre? I mean, you obviously created it. So how different is that original that you gave Ron versus the version that came out?
And how did you recreate it? Did you know the programming still, or did you have?
Well,
what
so
did you do?
everything. There was only one pattern, and then all we did was just have stuff come in and out, and just me twisting the knobs. So the only thing that's missing is it would have been nice for people to actually be able to hear the original recording of when we made it. That first energy behind twisting the knobs, what it sounded like, how it was done, to be like, wow, that's the first time that was really done. Yeah. So when we went back in the studio, we'd done countless other tracks, you know. They weren't, you know, just in the studio. It wasn't like they came out, but so we were more into, I guess, the programming and things like that. Like I understood the 303 even more, but I just think the emotion behind it was so amazing because it was such excitement at what this machine can do and how it manipulated the sound and stuff. And, you know, and to go even further into, like, I know you didn't ask this question, but it's an interesting part of the Future story in terms of just the fact that we kind of like, people think about communities and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, you guys knew each other. But the funny thing is, we would call each other on the phone and talk crap. I'll call Bam Bam, or Bam Bam will call me. I said, dude, I got one. It's going to blow your joint away. I just told him straight up. And he was like, nah, I got one, this and that. So we would just talk stuff with one another and everything. And then no one had an 808 or a 909. And the 303 was really scarce. So people will borrow my 303, and someone would be having an 808. It was somebody's 808 and 909, and no one knew who it was, but it would go around the whole city, and it was like a library. We'd be like, yo, you got the 808? Who got the 808? Oh, I gave it to Tyree. Yeah. I said, all right, Tyree, I need that 808 after that. But I told Kid Lexi he was going to get it. I said, man, listen, I need it. I got a track that I got to do. It's got to come out. And then we'll be just using it. And nothing ever happened to that 808. Like, it didn't get broke. Everybody like, yo, take care of that 808 because I need it. And everybody was just using it. So I thought that was pretty unique, pretty interesting as far as we were still competitive, but we still knew we needed to to use each other's equipment to do things.
Yeah, Carl Craig told me that was happening a lot in Detroit as well, where there was, you know, scarcity of equipment. There was only few people or one person that had a particular, you know, synth or drum machine or whatever, and it was getting passed around, obviously by friends, you know, who respected.
But we never knew whose 808 that was.
But you had no idea.
they were somebody let one person use it, and they probably regretted it because that thing went all over the place. To people they probably didn't even know.
Wow. Pierre, like a lot of people, obviously, Trax Records, DJ National, all these early, you know, Chicago labels were quite revered internationally. What was your relationship with Trax Records like? I mean, you initially began by releasing a lot of music on that label, so I'm assuming they were quite receptive to what you're doing, and they were quite supportive. Where did it go wrong? Do you have any cautionary tales for
it went wrong?
Yeah.
The day that I met the reporters from England.
Yeah.
Telling me how big Acid was in the UK.
Mm.
I was like, huh? Larry Sherman said it was just doing a little bit here and there in Detroit, and then maybe New York, and really that's it. I'll let you know when some residuals come in.
When you signed these tracks, were you getting an advance or no?
Yeah, we got an advance for the tracks. Yeah, and then we wouldn't see, and then it would be like an EP was about 1,500, which was kind of like a lot back then. So I would get the 1,500, and then he'd tell me, he said, Pierre, I also gave a check to so-and-so. So you might want to hurry up to the bank so you can cash that, because I don't know what all is coming in. And I'll be like, oh, okay. And I'll just shoot to his bank and cash it.
Yeah.
Oh, are we still talking like end of the 80s right now?
Yeah.
We're still talking, 87, 88. And I mean, we didn't know anything about and that's the thing. He didn't tell us stuff. And other people, I didn't have relationships with people who might have known that were already traveling to Europe at that point in time. So
who was the owner of Trax Records?
Larry Sherman.
Larry Sherman, that's right. Yeah.
And then We Are Future, which was one of our biggest, came about because everybody started talking about how Acid was dead and it was going to be nothing and Future's over. Because you remember, everybody just did not like us. You know, it was like they were against us somehow. You know, and Spanky came back and said, man, Pierre, everybody's saying that Acid is over. And he was like really a little distraught and down. I was like, really? I said, they saying that? I said, all right, you know what? Future would never die. And so I started I went home. I said, I'm about to write a track. And so I went home and I wrote the lyrics to We Are Future. I wrote the whole track, made the acid line, did everything. I said, all right, Spanky, we got to get in the studio because I got one and watch. And so I was really excited because I grew up differently. I grew up really going through a lot of things, so to speak. Like my family, my background is been involved in a lot of stuff historically. Like my father, he was a drill sergeant in the Marines starting 1950. Now 1950 was the beginning when they even let Black people be on that level in terms of in the Army. And there's situations where he would not move to the back of the train and they have to call the police and all the National Guard and all these people. But since he was in his Marine uniform, they couldn't touch him. Wow. They had to call the Marines to come get him. That was when they really respected military. So there's that. And then a lot of these guys didn't have the same things I had growing up. Like my father was always there, you know, so it gives you a certain strength and value in terms of when things happen with me in school. It was my father would be up there And then when things needed to get dealt with in a physical way, my father be there with my 3 brothers and be like, hey, handle that. And then something happened. So I was just wanting to fight when I heard that. I was like, no, we're not going to let this stand. We're going to make a track and we're going to show them that Future going to be here. So we did We Are Future, and it really was an important track for me in terms of what it was talking about. And I knew what was going on in Europe, and I just felt like, what are they talking about? It's not done. And to be here 35 years later is crazy. Like, that's a crazy thing, you know? So I really, my career has been one of a lot of things that's really close to just my heart. Like this music, all of us that started out back during that time, 80s, late 80s, early 90s, people don't realize we didn't know we were going to be some kind of star. We making music we love. Like we feel this and we want to do it. Versus now, people could, I'm gonna blow up, I'm gonna be this, and they can do it for the other reasons. So we have a connection to the music, to the culture, which is deep, so deep that it's hard being on the outside to be on page with that.
Was Larry Sherman was white, right? He was
Jewish. But you know what's funny? Larry kept that from us, and he was ruthless. But a lot of labels did stuff. But you know what? I could say DJ International. I felt like they really tried though, because they did things, and the artists did get included in those stuff. They were told about stuff. Larry was on a whole nother level because he was involved in a lot of things. People didn't notice. Larry had a chop shop, so he was connected to what do you call that? The underworld. What is that? The mafia. Yeah, he was connected to a mafia, so he was of a certain.
So Larry didn't come from the culture. He was kind of exploiting. He was trying to exploit the culture and create a new revenue source. Right. So he wasn't like a scenester, so to speak.
No, not at all. So people, the funniest thing is, dude, he had no office. He had a podium in the middle of a room with a lot of broken records all on the floor, all over the place. Yeah. And you walk up in there through the loading dock part, mind you. You're walking up the little steps next to the loading dock, going into this crickety door. And then he's like 50 feet away with a little stool sitting at a podium. And it's like, you just see like records all over the place, like, cause they would break them up and remelt them and stuff. So it's like, oh, okay, this is a record label. So you're not even, it's just weird. Like what some of the record labels.
So then I would, maybe, I don't know, you would have to say if it's correct or not, but like the next chapter in your evolution as an artist, started in New York, right?
Yeah.
You moved to New York, what, like in 1990? And was it a direct result of like what happened with Tracks?
Yeah, Tracks. Yeah, I told him I'll never come back there again. And we were yelling and cursing, and he kept saying, they all come back. They all come back. Marshall, Adonis. He started running down these names. I said, it won't be me. You'll never see me again.
So you moved to New York, and then the Strictly Rhythm connection came about. Was it that?
Yeah. That was so important. Let me tell you, I had to deal with.
Can I tell you something? There's like this one thing that if I would say there's one musical style that influenced me most in my musical career as a DJ, it would be Wild Pitch.
Wow.
And I think for a lot of us, for me too, yeah.
I mean, the Wild Pitch, I Think I Love You. I mean, it's this style. Yeah, this style was groundbreaking for me when I heard this. I mean, up till today, I mean, I'm not sure you also were, for the people out there, Raving Lunatics. There was this one big record on Strict Rhythm called Raving Lunatics. Would you also consider that as Wild Pitch? I would.
Yeah, kind of. That was
Pierre. How would you go ahead?
And and that style of record, the style, how the effects you were using, the vocals that you were using, the beats, everything was still, and it still is somehow a blueprint of techno that I want to create still today. And we actually, if I may, before you continue and tell us all about Wild Pitch, we had a club running in Frankfurt in about, I think, 92, 93. And it was Thursday nights running the Wild Pitch Club.
That's too funny, because Roland told me about it. It was too funny.
And so you know Roland, and maybe Roland, do you want to say something to that?
Where is he?
Because we have a secret guest coming on.
Where is he at?
We have a surprise guest coming on, and Roland should be with us somewhere here. So we have Roland Leeske.
Go ahead.
We have Roland Leeske here now, and Roland Leeske he's not here yet. Maybe he's listening and he's going to join in.
But
Roland Leeske is the guy who runs.
I got to tell you that story. It's a great
get physical records, but Roland is going to come in any moment now. So tell us.
So this is what happened. So I got to New York, and I'm hitting the clubs, and their style is a little bit slow.
Yeah.
And so what happened was acid was too much for them. The Chicago house was too many beats and it's a great
Roland is going to come in any moment now. So tell us.
But keep talking. Yeah.
And the beats were too strong for them to get with.
He's gonna have to turn his sound down, otherwise it's gonna keep feeding back.
Okay.
I think. There
so the beats were too strong, and they weren't really kind of getting into the tracks I was making. So I said, okay, I know what I gotta do. I gotta make this the intro, whereas they could mix it into anything they're playing, and it could just smoothly come in. So I started making the intros like just slow, whereas you think, okay, yeah, this is a little groove, whatever. And I said, but I'm gonna build it up. By the middle, they're gonna be like, And then I said, but I gotta slow it back down, because they're not gonna know how to get out of it. So I had to go back down, and then they would mix out. So I had thought about that technique, like when I was doing the remix for this hip hop remix with Jive Records. And the funny thing is I wasn't supposed to be making that track. I was supposed to be doing a remix, and I'm making a track for myself. But so that's how it had to be done, because I knew that they couldn't get into what I was doing, because they didn't want to mix into it. They just thought, it's too much. And the reason why the term Wild Pitch got connected to it was because when I made the track, the only DJs I gave it to was this dude named Nick Jones that played for these parties called Wild Pitch parties, and I gave it to Tony Humphreys, and they both played it. And then because of them playing it, Strictly Rhythm was like, "Hey, what's this track you got called Generate Power?" I was like, "Oh, that was on that cassette I gave you a month ago that you didn't like nothing on." "Oh, I don't think it was on there, Pierre." I said, "No, it was on there."
So the Nick Jones was doing parties called Wild Pitch, right?
Well, he was the DJ for the Wild Pitch party.
For the Wild Pitch parties,
doing the party's name was Great Day.
Yeah, and I know Nick Jones's work he worked a lot with Bobby Condors. He was doing a lot of stuff for Massive Beat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So you got the name. So you started making this music that was these really long, drawn out tracks or remixes where you kept layering and building to like a really high crescendo and then breaking back down again. Yeah. And this became kind of the blueprint of your sound in that New York era, right? And what was the reaction to that? I mean, judging from Strictly Rhythm's reaction, it must have been.
Well, the funny thing is, like, people.
Really, hi, Roland, by the way.
But Roland's here. But Junior Vasquez was the one that went totally insane. He played him and Junior Vasquez and Danny Tenaglia. But Junior would play, believe it or not, he would play Wild Pitch tracks back to back to back for nearly a full hour.
Yeah. I did too.
That's go crazy.
I mean, were you aware of the impact of Wild Pitch? I mean, here's a guy who started the night in Frankfurt. When was this, Roland? In 92, 93? Every Thursday night?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think 93 we started, yeah.
Oh,
did you know?
Were you at heaven somewhere?
Hmm?
I said, were you at heaven somewhere?
Yeah, when I'm together with you, I feel like in heaven, but I'm still in. Yeah, that's just my background picture. I don't know how to get rid of it, but it was a picture taken in Rio, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roland, when did you first meet Pierre?
Oh, that's a different story. I never met him until a couple of years ago, maybe like 5 years ago, perhaps. And he called me out of the blue in summertime. Okay. Yeah, maybe I don't even remember the first time we met in real person, but in summertime I always am in Croatia together with my wife, and I usually don't have email and nothing, just a little old phone where you only can receive calls. And all of a sudden in the evening it was ringing, and it was an American number, and I didn't know who was calling, but I was like, okay, let me take this call. And then it was Pierre, and he was like, hey man. I was like, yeah, who's there? And he's like, yeah, it's Pierre. What's up? I was like, oh. And then we started talking, and I told him, obviously, how much I adored his sound. I mean, the Generate Power was the record actually, which made me going the way I chose to go. Yeah, I came to Frankfurt as a very young guy, and Heiko MSO, he was like the guy in a record store, local record store called Delirium Records. And I don't even know how I met him. I think I started working for him as a light jockey. That was one of my first jobs in the business. I was even going to school back then, so I was maybe 18 or 19 years old. And on the weekends I was working in the nightclubs, and during the daytime I was in school. And Heiko introduced me to this sound, and he played Generate Power to me in that record store, and he was always dancing like this to it, really like crazy, and we were going crazy. Obviously it samples Snap, I've Got the Power, which was the biggest hit in Frankfurt, and one of my first vinyl I bought, and so on. So I got into that sound, and then a friend of us, he was like an advertising guy, a very friendly guy, but he was always already traveling. He had big jobs going on in New York and stuff, so he was kind of the international influence. And he knew we were good DJs, and he liked us, and he supported us, and he asked us if we want to do a night in a club in Frankfurt. He would organize it and speak to the boss, who was like a big don in Frankfurt, who had several locations there. And we were like, yeah, of course, let's do it. And then we asked ourselves, oh, where's Pierre? No, he's gone. Come back. Yeah. And Horst said, let's call it the Wild Pitch Club. And he made the flyer and everything. And so we had the Wild Pitch Club, and we were playing these Wild Pitch records, obviously. And for maybe a year, we only had 20 or 30 guests, and only our best friends, more or less. But all of a sudden it exploded, and it was a small club. It was an underground club at the Conceptual, which is one of the more dodgiest areas in Frankfurt. And you had a lot of, dealers outside. And but in summertime it blew up, and there were like thousands of people outside, and it became a thing. It was on a Thursday, and we opened at like 11, and we had to close at 4. And it was basically the dance floor was full from the first, record until the end. And it was kind of a rule not to go crazy. So the sound developed over the night, and only like the last maybe 3 or 5 records, like the last half an hour, we could really let the fireworks explode. It was kind of an unwritten rule in Frankfurt in that club. So you really had to keep it cool and low all the time. And that sound perfectly fitted into that philosophy of playing, and I fall in love with the sound, and then I decided to move to New York. I was still very young, 21 maybe, and opened a record store there. And I only did that move to go to the club. So I went to Sound Factory Bar on Wednesdays. It was Wednesdays it was Little Louis Vega playing. Thursdays it was Tony Humphries. Fridays it was Frankie Knuckles. And on Saturdays I went to the Sound Factory where Junior Vasquez was playing, and that was my life back then. But I never met Pierre. I don't know why, and I don't even know why he called me out of the blue.
Played the Robots.
Yeah, you played at the Robots. I was there exactly with my friend Horst, who was my neighbor in New York, but we never met in person. Right? Yeah. So I don't know. He called me, and then we started talking, and I told him the story and how much I loved the sound, and that I would like to re-release, one of his records. And we had some issues on the publishing side, so we decided to do cover versions. He did cover versions of his own songs to, bypass these motherfuckers. You heard the story before, and that's how we started. And I just, went to my record collection and I found it. We did this one. Yeah, can you see it?
No, because of your virtual background, you got to get.
No, I have to kill my virtual background.
Yeah, if you go to the preferences, you can just choose no background or something.
Okay, let me kill it. Einstellung.
Man, you guys got any flyers from back then, from the Wild Pitch party?
Yeah, we have some flyers.
I have a quick question. I have a quick question.
Wait
I have a quick question for Pierre. How many 303s have you owned in your life?
You know what? This is gonna freak you out. Only 2.
Wow. You still have
only 2.
The first
and I don't
one?
even have one now.
Oh wow.
I have one, but I haven't gotten it back from Spanky's his wife.
Oh wow.
So I'm gonna try to get it from I'm actually supposed to be getting it from her this year. So.
Oh wow.
And Pierre, when did you first stop doing live shows? I mean, I saw you play in the Ministry of Sound in the mid 90s, doing Future 303. But I mean, did it pretty much kick off when you released the record, or when were you gigging?
I never did. You mean like shows at Future?
Yeah. Was that just a later thing, or?
We did one show in Chicago at the Bismarck. That's this big place. Yeah. There's a little Lewis party, but other than that, just recently.
Okay, and were you DJing back then, or were you making a living just?
I was DJing.
Okay.
I was DJing first.
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay. So were you DJing in New York when you moved there?
Okay.
So New York, I played just when I was booked or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was doing A&R work there.
Yeah, I mean,
I was at Strictly Rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you were busy making music, right? You could, as a producer.
That was when you could make money making music.
Yeah. Can you? Nick Jones, others playing this new sound of yours, right?
Mm-hmm. And the biggest connection, let me say, the biggest connection with myself and Strictly Rhythm is, I was with Jive Records, and Jive Records will try to placate to maybe my ego by saying, we're going to make you the next Teddy Riley. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. Just do what we tell you to do. I was like, I can make my own stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start from that idea. I want to start from my own ideas. Like, it didn't sit right with me. So they got mad at me, and then they wanted to do something happened because of what's that? The British girl that was on Jive Records back then.
Artist? Liz Torres. Liz Torres?
No, she was British from the UK. She used to be a stripper, and she was Samantha Fox. Okay.
Oh, Samantha Fox. Yeah.
Oh, I love Samantha Fox.
She's a page 3 girl. Does it? Page 6.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. So she was like, they were like, do this song and blah blah blah. I said, but I already recorded the song with this group, and it's scheduled to come out. But Samantha wants it. I said, yeah, but I already told them that they were having it. Yeah. So I didn't do it. And they were like, that's it. That's it for this guy. So they put me on the shelf. And so they had me signed as an artist, a producer, and they had my publishing. So I couldn't do anything. So what happened was I had met Mark, and then he wanted Generate Power so bad. So he got his attorney to help get me out of that contract.
Yeah. And I remember that was in the music press. That was like, I remember it
Yeah,
now.
yeah. And I got out of it. But the amazing thing I'm so thankful for Mark about is the fact that I didn't have no equipment. He used to every week he would order from Toy Specialist, this equipment rental agency, gear for me every week. And all he would do is say, hey, just give me first refusal of whatever you make. And so that's why I had so much stuff come out on Strictly and had such a good relationship there, because he didn't have to do all that stuff. Yeah. So, and then eventually I started getting my own equipment and stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, do you think that was as well? I mean, a lot of artists that moved, well, a lot of artists from Chicago, like Lil Lewis or even Larry Heard, when they signed to major labels, I mean, the music became more watered down, didn't it? I mean, it was, I guess the music wasn't accepted. So by being able to record on a label like Strictly, that you could do your own thing, you could, that was it, right?
Yeah. And he really, like, he didn't know about the music either, but he was more someone that wanted was about the culture and the integrity of it. So if we were stressing things had to be a certain way, then he wasn't like trying to stand in the way of it.
Nice.
And Pierre, I mean, Roland and I were from this sort of Frankfurt school.
Sorry, guys.
That's where
Here's the album.
Wild pitched the story,
and it's it's really heavy vinyl, double vinyl, and it's got all the classics.
What are the tracks, Roland? Can you?
What is house music?
From Futures.
From Pierre.
Pierre's Fantasy Club. Yeah. Right.
Generate Power, Fall, Master Blaster, Strobe Light Laser Acid, that's a new one. Meet Hate with Love featuring Ann Nasby, that's a new one. Pierre, one of our favorites. I think we just did it for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then it's the cover version from Donna Summer's I Feel Love. We did another vinyl where she's singing, the girl, Chick Lorraine is singing Acid Love. It's only out on vinyl. And Let the Music Take You Higher. Classic. Yeah. And there wasn't enough space to put out more, but I mean, it was kind of I think the digital version maybe has a few more tracks, and we were playing around with these ideas, and because Pierre never released it as an album. So we kind of covered all the old, versions he did on Strictly Rhythm, and he re-recorded them, and we mastered them, and then we just put them out. And it was, I think the album was a big success. And my partners at Get Physical back then, they were a little bit like, yeah, you and that house music thing. But, we got some really good response from it. And then we met, and since then we are friends. I even slept in his studio. I went to Atlanta, to get it finished, because he never finished it. And I was like, man, where's my master? And I was like, okay, I have to take a plane. So I flew to Atlanta. I slept in his studio for a week and forced him to finish it. I think he had such a bad conscience. There's this white dude in my studio. It was super hot outside. And I mean, his place, there are no windows and nothing. So I was basically living in the darkness in his studio. The only thing I did in the morning was walking around the corner to get some, pancakes for breakfast. That was my, kind of food I ate there. And then after a week...
It wasn't the worst experience, Roland. I do have a kitchen in here and a shower.
Yeah, and your wife, she was so kind. She brought me some vegan food in the evening and stuff. So it wasn't that bad. I loved it, actually. I mean, for me, it was a dream coming true.
But you know what? The problem with Roland is, I'm remaking old stuff. And I know, trust me, if you guys remake some old, you start fixing stuff. You start saying, wait a minute.
It's like tinkering. It's like movie directors. It's like George Lucas putting new CGI or characters in Star Wars.
Put this out again. Go back.
Right. And I'm trying to fix stuff, and he wants it to be back the way it was. I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? I could do it better now. It's like, but he didn't want it better.
That's what adds to
Pierre,
the old stuff,
Pierre, you when you got connected to Strictly Rhythm, and that relationship became a really fruitful one for you creatively, then all of a sudden you had the majors calling you again for remixes. And did they give you full creative freedom, and did they let you do what you do, the wild pitch thing, without any interference? Did you have any issues dealing with the majors then, when you were on kind of a different playing field and you had more leverage as an artist?
They did actually. They didn't. For the most part, they let me just do. For the most part, they did. Yeah, for the most part, they kind of really let me do what I wanted to do, I think. But I think if they wanted it to go a different direction, they weren't really outspoken about it. And if they did, that was when they probably dropped the ball on the release. Like, okay, well, you know what? This mix just not gonna get pushed. but you know what? On all the remixes, my remix for the Pet Shop Boys is one that I really, really felt really good about, which it was hard though, that I wouldn't normally do, because I didn't know what to do with that thing. I was like, huh? Why did they get me to do this mix? It's like, it's not really a mix for me to do. And that's one of the most nervousness I ever felt in doing a remix. Yeah. But when it came out, people really liked it.
Yeah.
You know, like one of the versions, like
a lot of us from that era, when we got approached by majors to do remixes, we had the same feeling. It was like, not always, maybe half the time it was an artist that we respected. And there was always this thing in the back of your mind, like maybe this remix is going to lead to meeting this artist. Maybe that was like a childhood dream, to meet this artist. And you had these, fantasies like that would play out in your head of maybe they'll ask us to produce their next song or album or something like that. Maybe it's going to lead to all these other things. And oftentimes it didn't pan out that way. But I must say, for all the people watching, your remix of Yo-Yo Honey's Groove On. To this day, the dub is probably, for me, I mean, Generate Power was, yes, an influential record for all of us. But that for me was you taking that sound and making it kind of absolutely perfect, And for anyone watching, if you really want, in my opinion, something that really is your calling card to that wild pitch sound that we're talking about, that we've been talking about here for the last 45 minutes, check that remix out, that dub. It's incredible.
But the mix on that, the studio mixed the heck out of that record. I mean, like, it sounds great.
It sounds amazing to this day. Exactly.
I think that's a lot to do with it as well. I mean, that the room was amazing. The engineer, I was just blown away by just the sound quality of that.
Where was this recorded, Pierre? Where did you do this remix?
I think I did that in the UK.
Wow. Okay.
I think I did it at Jive Studios in Battery in the UK or something. Yeah. And I mean, I have to be honest though, the engineers in the UK were always amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And in the middle of the 90s, were you aware of how influential you were? I mean, it's funny to know that basically you sampled Snap, which came out of Frankfurt, and then it goes back creating the wild pitch sound. And were you aware in the middle of the 90s how influential you were musically in Europe? I mean, especially for us guys in Frankfurt, it was just like, that was the sound. That was the sound to strive for. And Hard Floor then coming in, doing like the double 303 thing and stuff like this.
Man, well,
there comes the German connection again with Hard House in Frankfurt.
Exactly. Well, two things. Number one, I'm not really like reality. I got to put this just right. I'm not reality driven, meaning that I'm almost never kind of in the moment. I'm always in my brain thinking of, oh, this would be great to do. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, he just said something that made me think of this. And all that's always rolling around. So I'm never really connected to stuff like that because I'm so self-aware of being me. Like, oh, this morning I tripped over something. Oh, I did this. Oh, I messed up on this thing. So I never see myself as the same person that's making this music, if that's easy to understand. But so I that's how I feel, but I'm aware of my name overall in the music, so to speak. And then now Germany, that's when I started just getting booked for all these tours and stuff. Like I forget the name of those tours I used to go on, but I went to like 14-city tour in Germany.
Yeah, it was at the beginning. It was sponsored by Marlboro, the cigarette brand.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy behind this brand idea of bringing the cigarettes to the clubs and buying in big DJs from the States was Horst Maus, the guy who gave us the name for the club. So he was one of his fans, and he used the money from the big corporates to sponsor, to get the DJs he loved. To get Frankie Knuckles, he flew over to New York with $30,000 in cash and brought them to him personally to get him over to play in Germany. And that's Horst, and he's the guy who started it. So
Man, I wish I would have met him. Did I never
wish
met
he could see this today. I don't know where he is. I think he's in Hamburg at the moment. Yeah.
And then I used to go to Heidelberg. Yeah. I mean, it was like,
I remember.
I was so disappointed when I used to go to Frankfurt all the time, and then Frankie was not doing jack no more. I'm like, what happened to that place? I DJ'd in the airport in Frankfurt before. They shut down the airport. I was like, wow,
That was
so for me, that was the shift in me DJing from like being a major place for me from the UK, because I used to go there for the most part. And then Speed Garage came in and they started flipping us American DJs the bird, like, we'll need y'all. So I was like, okay. I said, well, you know what? I got Germany. I'm going over there. I'm gonna go to Germany. So we were doing that,
Pierre, I'm curious about the dynamic of you, Mark Davenport, and Gladys Pizarro over at Strictly. How did that? I mean, you obviously mentioned that Mark would do these things where he would rent, new gear for you to keep you actively like producing for the label. But like, what was your relationship like with Gladys as far as the A&R end of the spectrum?
Gladys hated my stuff. Gladys never liked my music.
She never liked your music.
She would tolerate it. So Mark told her, hey, just don't A&R his stuff.
Okay.
Just sign whatever he give you. So I was just like putting out stuff, but the funny thing is, do you remember the horn song? Do you know this?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because that was I think another big milestone in your career.
That track.
Does anyone not know this song?
Yeah. That was like a UK top one, like it was #1, right? I think, or top 10.
It was really big over there. The horn song. And what happened was Gladys was sitting on that track for like months. Like it was about 2 months. Because I was already paid for it, so I just gave it to her, and I didn't really follow up on when it was going to be released. But what happened was Strictly Real, they like to put out a track every week. So he was like, Mark was like, it's a week coming, and we don't have nothing for that week. What's going on? And then Mark was like, hey, Pierre, you got something? I was like, well, Gladys, I gave her this track, and I don't know, I guess it's going to come out. And then so he said, hey, Glass, what's up with this Pierre track? Well, Pierre got this track. I don't know, And so what happened was she played it to Louis Vega. And Louis was like, Glass, you need to put this out. So that's when she called me up. Pierre, what's going on with this track? I said, what do you mean? What's going on with it? You tell me. I gave it to you. So Louis was like, yo, you got to put this out. And so Louis had suggested, it was this one vocal that I had in there. He was just saying, I love everything about it except for this one vocal. And so I was like, all right, I'll just scratch that one vocal sample. And other than that, the track is the same. And so she put it out. Everybody got behind it. It was one of those tracks that can go, I guess, the New York DJs like it, the house vocal DJs like, so it's like that perfect spot that you can kind of hit like a lot of different areas.
Yeah, for me it was Louis. I used to listen to Louis at Sound Factory Bar, the Underground Network parties, and and I heard him break that record, and I was like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing when I first heard it. It was just the most euphoric sounding record. You know, just when you think, you know, it can't get any better than how it was at that point. Like that comes along and just blows everyone away. So what did that do for you?
Hold on. But don't forget, DJ John came behind that with the launch, and he sampled it. He took the horn sound.
But there was a lot of knockoffs. There was a lot of people biting that.
And his thing was super big. And it came out on Strictly Rhythm. I said, hey, how you gonna sign this track? Don't tell me about it until after it's out. And I'm complaining, hey, somebody stole my track. Oh yeah, Pierre, we meant to tell you. I'm like, you meant to tell me. I was like, why did you make that a remix to my track? I was like,
Pierre, I'm going to turn this around. I'm curious about whether you, at that point in your career, whether you had like a team behind you that was like a management team or assistants, or who did you have in your corner that was like, you know, helping you be you, protecting your brand?
That's the thing. I never really had that throughout my career. Like I always had sortas. Like I was like, if I like somebody, I was like, oh, okay, he's cool. So I never really kind of like got real serious and made sure that I went after these certain type of companies, which I probably should have. But on the other hand, is a lot of people I knew at the time that did, they felt like they couldn't do what they wanted to do. So I was always stuck between that and feeling like I was going to be pigeonholed in terms of my creativeness and or what gigs I was going to have, because you want to have the big gigs, but you want to still be able to play what you want to play.
Yeah.
And so it was like most of the time, it was like you got to kind of like be willing to, I guess, switch up your style a little bit. So at the time, I was so old school in terms of I can't make something unless I feel it in my soul. Someone can tell me, hey, just push those 4 notes on there and it's going to be a platinum hit. And if I play the 4 notes, I don't know if I like those 4 notes. Whereas other people are like, dude, just do it and get the money. And I'll be like, I can't do it.
Would you say, like, in looking back at your career, your whole career, would you say that like you were faced with making these compromises when things started to blow up for you, when things, you know, like records that you were doing or remixes started to become really successful? Was that when you were tested, where you had to make a compromise with your creative vision? Like you wanted to go in one direction and these people were like, well, no, that was a hit, that worked, that sold this much, you know, in this country, and if you do another one like that, they're gonna book you at this, you know, like
right.
Was that what happened?
That's really kind of what happened. And the other side of that is they also were like saying, and then okay, we're gonna have you do are you ready to do, I don't know how many gigs, like 200 gigs or whatever, some kind of crazy number, and you're like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of DJing. Because I love studio. For me, I that's why through the 90s, I didn't DJ a whole lot because I just love making music. And I like DJing though, but I don't want to do it like that. I just want to do it like get more money, less gigs, put it like that. Like, you know, so I can still really work in the studio because I speak better through my music. I want to do my music and put stuff out there and just touch people that way. So I really wanted to do more than anything. So I guess I kind of didn't really get with a lot of certain situations at the time.
Is there any, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, go for it.
You've been patient.
No, go.
No, I was going to say, is there anything creatively that you feel like you haven't explored that you want to?
In terms of the only thing, if it's making music,
Yeah, like as far as the music making.
Okay, so I can say I'm exploring, in terms of exploring it on a level of someone signing it and put it out. Yeah, that's stuff. But in terms of exploring it just here in this bubble, no, I'm feel like stuff I'm messing around with is just really crazy. Because what I like to do, I don't know if you guys realize, and I like to infuse. I'd like to have no boundaries and infuse different sounds, and just try to create something that is different, but yet it still flows within what's going on. And I would like to be able to do more of that, more creating and breaking boundaries through music versus DJing. But man, I hate music now though, because it's all about touring. Well, it was until last year. Now it's all about the food line. But yeah, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I remember when the money for a remix would cover like 10 gigs. It's like,
right. It's like, hey, I'm good. I'm just staying in the studio.
Yeah.
But were you going out in the 90s in New York? Were you actually going out and hearing all of your productions in the clubs? Or I mean, you don't party, right? You're not drinking.
I'm like a little bit of an introvert, so I don't go nowhere. Like if I go to the club, it's a reason why I'm there. Like
but
I'm there.
I guess you were hearing everything in the office.
Yeah.
Right, with them, so you were hearing all the new stuff from, pretty much the creme de la creme of producers, right, in New York or the world, I guess. At that point.
But you know what the thing is, though, I like to not know what's going on, because okay, think of it this way. I mean, you want to know a little bit, but not too much, because you don't want to be indoctrinated into a sound that's happening. So in terms of producing and even approaching the 303, like what happens had I read the book to the 303 and it just simply said, okay, to get the bass line like this, you do this, this, and this, and then that. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. I got it. Would there have been acid? So I don't like to read directions on stuff. I don't like to get information like that. I like to figure things out myself. Yeah. And in doing so, I feel like it keeps me in a mode of being open to whatever happens when I do whatever thing. So for instance, because I'm in a studio one day, I tell the engineer, hey, I think that if we run that sound, and this is in the 80s, we run that sound through that thing, it's going to sound like this. And he'll say, nah. I said, nah, I think so. I'm telling you, I think it can do that. He's like, nah, it's not supposed to do that. I was like, okay, but I think it's not. It wasn't made for that. It's not going to do that. So he leaves out of the room. I'm like, I'm running that thing through there. So I run it through the thing. He comes back in. I'm nodding my head. He said, oh, how'd you do that? I'm like, oh, I ran the thing through the thing that you said wouldn't do the thing that I wanted to do. So he's like, oh, it wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I
like to approach things like that.
But I was going to say, the music you were making in the 90s, the Wild Pitch thing, obviously had a huge effect on the music in Chicago, right? Because, Roy Davis Jr., there's countless artists who then went to sign to DJ Duke's label, Sex Tracks. Were you visiting Chicago? Did you back then or associate?
Nah, I very seldomly went to Chicago because I was always Chicago. It's like going backwards in time, because you have people that still don't want to do stuff sometimes. Like first of all, they have these big parties called the Chosen Few. I'm still never getting booked on those because Pierre, your music is too fast. Your music, so they're still like that. So for me, Chicago is almost like it was my launching pad. But in terms of them musically, they're still at a time in the 80s, and it's holding them back. So I took Roy to England in 1991 or 92. Wow. So I knew Roy when he was in high school. And Felix the House Cat, he was in high school. So when I made Fantasy Girl, I was like, I need a keyboard player. And then someone knew Felix before anyone knew Felix. Said, I know this guy that goes to this school and he plays keyboards. So that's how I pulled Felix in. And so really we were all about just doing whatever, being different and stuff like that. So that's why I think they stuck out in front of a lot of people. Because if you listen to a lot of the music by certain people I was connected with, they kind of did different things. Even though Roy is still very soulful and musical.
Yeah, but he made some incredibly hard records back in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Stuff. Yeah, crazy stuff.
Wow.
So, Roland, what's you going to contribute to this conversation?
Roland is on mute, not anymore.
I was just listening.
Pierre, you never
wake up.
You never really felt like Chicago supported you. Did they come around when you left Chicago and you made it big in New York City? Did they come back around?
Yeah, they came.
Did they want you back?
They came around.
They want you back in Chicago?
Hey, how come it says New York underneath your name? I was like, I didn't write that flyer. They'd tell me that. And then when I put Chicago on there, then they'd be like, oh, so now you're from Chicago. I'm like, what? I'm like, but yeah, you know what it is? It's the new people. Yeah, it's the people my age from that era that still are like that kind of, which is kind of funny. But I think the new school of Chicago is like trying to get back out there. And they're trying to find their voice. And I just think that Chicago has been through a lot. Like Jack Tracks, I don't know if you know that label out of the UK. They used to come to Chicago.
Yeah.
They would steal music.
Yeah.
They would if they were in your studio and there was a DAT laying around somewhere, homeboy would take it.
Yeah.
And then you hear your music out.
They did well with those compilations, with those Jack tracks. There was like 20 of them or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't even finish that track. And people are hearing it and it's not done. And you know. Yeah. So yeah, Chicago still just has that. They're just kind of a little bit lost, you know. And I really want to do something there that can really kind of set a spark. But the parties be banging. The parties still be banging, but they just still haven't gotten that thing where they got, oh, this big DJ's out from there. This other DJ, oh, this guy, he's making all these joints. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's kind of, yeah.
What prompted your move to Atlanta? When did you move to Atlanta from New York, which is where you are now? Where you call home?
I moved in 08, I think. 09. 09, I think I moved here. Somewhere around there. 09, 010. I moved here because of family, because my kids have there's young kids their age out here. So I wanted them to kind of have a connection to their cousins, because my oldest daughter, who's 29 now,
wow,
the whole time I stayed in New York, like 16 years, she had no connection to her cousins. So I thought, okay, I got married again. I have other kids, two other kids. And I thought, okay, I want them to grow up with some family around or something. So moving here, at the time, my wife's family lived here or whatever.
Yeah, I think I met you in Atlanta. You just turned up at a gig I was playing, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was really drunk, and then you were somebody introduced us, or I recognized you, and I couldn't believe it. I thought I was seeing things. Like,
what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Talking about your daughters, they're all very creative, right? I think the oldest one is like a super hybrid kind of personality.
23 Uhr.
Sorry, that's my Mac. But is it the youngest one who's doing these great comic artworks? Or
that's actually a 29-year-old.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah, she just looked like she one of the youngest.
Okay.
But yeah, she that's what she does.
Is she the one I met in Japan? No, she wasn't there. Yeah, she was there. Yeah.
I took it to so Roland's talking about. I have a daughter that she does like this anime type manga type drawings, and she dressed like all that kind of way. And so what happened is she got in some magazines, some Japanese magazines.
All right.
She's been on 1 or 2 shows out there. Then she has like a little clothing line. But I took her out there when she was 12, and she was just, that was it. She literally came back speaking Japanese.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, because Pierre showed me some artwork she's working on for his new label, if I may talk about it here. Yeah, and it's like an American super house hero comic she's painting there, and the label's name is Blacktronica.
Yeah, very interesting.
Maybe you want to talk about this a little bit.
Oh yeah, see, Roland. You know what's funny is I never talk about stuff until someone asks me, so it always feels weird. So I'm gonna go ahead. Roland said. So really, we have a song that the first release is by a group name called Sync Machine, and the lead singer on it is Ann Saunderson, and it's another song that you're going to be familiar with where it came from. Kind of, it's got a sample in there, but so Sync Machine really is a story. So the Sync Machine is really just it came from a drawing that my daughter made, but I like the concept because she made a comic book, and the comic book was just how music makes electricity around the world. So you have to have music to have energy, and it makes things grow. It makes these things happen. So the story was that it was a transition from classical music into electronic music. And so it was a rough transition. People hate electronic music, and the classical people didn't want to go that way. And then the younger people hated the classic music, and it was like a fight. And so it started like a revolution when that Sync Machine came in with this electronic music. So it resonated with me because of Acid House. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. That makes me think of how when that sound came in, it created this movement that to this day, I think we don't really people ask, do I grasp it? I mean, do you guys grasp it? Because this is a part of you. This is like us being involved in something. And we look at the kids that are into it now, and they gotta be, it's like it wasn't for us, we did all this stuff, so it's interesting that I think about that in terms of the story, in terms of behind like Sync Machine, and then the characteristics of how music in the world, for the real world, it really makes the world go around. I mean, you watch a movie without music, you don't even know how to feel. Like I've seen a bootleg movie with no music in it, and it takes me till half the way out of the movie, I realize something is wrong. I'm like, what is missing? Yeah. And then you realize the soundtrack was never put in. So you don't know to feel scared or to feel angry or to feel love. You don't know what to feel based on just by the scene by itself. It needs something that's connected to music. So music is very, very, very important to this world. And I started going that place because of the pandemic. And I felt like we've been forgotten. Like, I feel like everything is important but us. It's like, oh, you're important though if we need you to raise some money for somebody. So, okay, we need you guys to DJ here. We need you guys here, but it's for charity. It's for charity because we gotta help these people. I'm like, okay, so we just good to do this music, but after that, go back home. We don't need you no more. But music is very, very important to this world, and I think the value of it has been greatly devalued because of Spotify and all these things that now $5 for and stream all you want, and we trying to squeeze a penny out of this money. And really what they're doing is they're destroying the music culture to where people don't value it anymore. It's not a big thing. All you need is a computer, whatever. So it's not really that important anymore.
That's a beautifully worded, beautiful message, Pierre.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, going back to you said you took your daughter to Japan. I mean, did you get much love from Roland, from the company? Have you met?
Yeah, that's what
back in the day, back in the early 90s, or has it been more recently?
I only started really connecting to any kind of companies like that made the equipment only after like the 2000s, I think.
Right.
Shouldn't they have given you a golden 303 by now?
But you know what? They did give me something. I had to go to. I'm trying to get original 303. They have them, and they won't let go of them.
They should build you one.
Because when they made the new ones, they showed video of how they were taking apart all these. They had all these 303s laying around. I was like, yo, I need one of those. But every time I talk to them, they keep saying they don't have any. But anyway, so. But what I was gonna say is
they must have some somewhere. They throw them away.
They do. But Roland has recently 2019 I won this Lifetime Achievement Award from Roland, which was great because they gave it to what's that guy that made Blinded Me with Science?
Thomas Dolby.
Yeah, exactly. They gave it to him first, and then they gave it to Jammin' Lewis, and then I was the third person to get one.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I thought about it like, because Thomas Dolby and Jammin' Lewis are both like on the pop scene.
Yeah.
And I'm just a DJ and producer. So I thought that, hey, that's kind of like a little bit of a smash in the ceiling that they went outside of that. Because, you know, all these big music companies, they always look at that music as the main thing, or rock and roll or whatever. But I mean, you got to think of around the world. I think electronic music is like, it has to be like the biggest music. Like if you were to add it all the way. My phone keep ringing every time you're ringing. But I think like the music we do, isn't it like the biggest music from around the world? If you go to Africa, what music is like really with the youth? It's really pretty big.
And generally electronic music is kind of what paves the way for other styles and trends. If you ever think about it, like, you know, house music and techno and all that stuff is like all the pop people start grabbing from there, and then they make the next big hit, and then it becomes the next big thing, when the underground's been doing that for years, you know?
Yeah. More now than ever. I hear the electronic elements in music now.
Yeah.
And it's always been the fastest traveling music, if you can say so. Even in the time back when we were still working with fax machines, you know, and when I had my store, you knew of a new record, although it was only on vinyl. But in Frankfurt, I knew there is this record out there, and I was, you know, looking for it very quickly. And I remember when I see Ali, that I think we were talking on the phone when I had the store in New York, and you asked me if I can get all those basic channel records for you over to DC. You know, we were all connected in a way, although we didn't know each other and we didn't have the internet. And it was through the music. And I think that's one of the unique things of electronic music. Yeah. It really connects people all over the world.
Well, our music has, to be honest, in a weird way, it kind of has a lot of love in it. Meaning that it brings a lot of people together in different cultures. And I'm not sure why it does that better than most other genres, but it does. Because every genre has its boundaries, it seems like. And either it doesn't bring people together, or it makes people think angry, or it's too this or it's too that. But electronic music is all about just letting yourself go. And it seems like,
we all have the dancer inside, I guess, because, you know.
And there's not really a nationality involved. It's just a global kind of music. Yeah, there's no certain local culture that dominates that. It's global.
And then the beat is closer to the rhythm, you know, the natural rhythms. Like when it was before it was music, when it was just drums and stuff, you know, it's just a thing that's more consistent and more patternistic to the natural beat of life, you know, natural rhythm of life, I think. Because all the other forms, it's hip hop, it has boo-boo, it's got all those beats, it's slow, it's this, it's that. But it's kind of like pretty much, I think it's just a great music to just naturally link to.
Totally. Before we come to an end, I was really curious to hear, especially considering that in '87 you got told already that Acid is dead. How do you feel about the revival of acid in the past years that has been happening? Have you been riding that wave a little bit?
I've definitely been riding that wave, and it's thanks to all the people that kept it going, like the whole Acid Love crew out of the UK, and then Hard Floor. You know, I mean, those guys have been like soldiers.
Oh, they have been soldiers, yeah. But I mean, especially in the last 5 years, I would say acid has been really coming back.
Yeah, it has been. Like, everybody's just popped on it, and next thing you know, it's like really a thing where it's just like, even the one worry I had is when what's his name did an acid track, and I was like, I gotta definitely hit it hard. What's that one guy named? Slow Acid. What's it? The pop guy. Some pop dude.
A pop dude?
Yeah. Well.
David Guetta?
Not David Guetta. What's that other guy that produces a lot of these pop hits? European guy. I forgot his name, but he's popular as heck. But anyway, he's worked with a lot of artists out in the US, you know, but I forgot his name. But he made some track called Slow Acid, and he was such a pop star, or is such a pop star. I was thinking, like, wait a minute, these kids gonna hear that, and then they go like, oh, he created this thing.
Calvin Harris.
Because of him, huh?
Calvin Harris.
Calvin Harris.
Yeah, him.
Yeah. That's
I don't even know if that was an acid song.
I don't even know that.
I had to Google it.
I think he's the biggest earning pop star, isn't he? He's like always #1 in the yearly charts. Like,
I mean, there's also the fact. I mean, you've got Behringer have done a 303. There's so many remakes. There's so many which are easy to use. Even like the boutique versions, the Roland ones, which are literally just USB. I mean, so. For young producers, I think hearing this sound, like you probably did when you were, young, it's like, wow, so.
Well, the great thing about it is they get these kids get out of the computer and into some real stuff, because that's two different places of producing from. Like, when you're producing on a computer, it's too much X's and O's and stuff. It's all like, okay, I think over right there, I'm going to put a break. Then I'm going to do another one right there. It's like, okay, it's all mapped out and bam, that's how it goes. I'm like thinking, well, I remember when we would get ready, I got to stand up. I say, okay, I got those buttons. I got these ones over here. And remember, we're going to do this over there. And then when it gets over there, we all got to hit these buttons at the same time. So we hit start, and then we just, but when you finish it, it feels like you captured a real thing that was done one time and will never be the same. It's like, because you all just did, we just did it. We hit play and it just went the way it went, and it was amazing. And how can you lock that in on music now? You can't lock it in. Yeah. It's impossible. And that's how music was recorded from the earliest days. Like, they would just get the band in and they just play. However it was, that's how it was. And I think life is in music when it's done that way. If I'm on a computer like a whole 2 years making one song, that sounds so schizophrenic. It's like, I was feeling this way that day. Now I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling this other way. And then you're like, it's all okay, there you go. It's like, how do people connect to that?
Matt, is this why you chose to record, to do your arrangements in the way that you've been hosting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm now doing everything live, and I mean, that was the thing. It's like I was just completely fed up with pushing boxes around a screen, and of course, I mean, for editing, it's great, but like, I think this is why I always loved your music, and especially the acid tracks and all these early they're just live jams. They are live pieces of music, and you can hear, they have all this crazy shit going on. Accidents and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
To Ron Hardy's, if you listen to his DJing, it had all those elements, all these crazy medleys and mixing and all that kind of vibe, So
And currently having another #1 in Beatport charts, Matt is definitely doing something right.
Matt, do you ever stand up and start dancing around? Like, you gonna post some of those videos or no?
No, I mean, loads of people have actually asked why. I mean, you could get a desk, a standing desk. I mean, could do that. Yeah.
But wouldn't it be amazing if you guys would do like something together with Future and everybody?
Yeah,
you know,
sure. Love to.
Yeah, Roland, get on it.
Old school, new
You
kind
know
of
what?
way.
I played, and then Chris gave me like a big photo of all these hot joints, right? So I'm sitting here like I'm listening. I literally got like 5 Radio Slave tracks like lined up in like one mix, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have to make this mix 2 hours to have 5 Radio Slaves up in there. So at least it's like it's a 2-hour mix.
Yeah, I was always inspired by you, man.
We spaced it out.
Long track.
But what I'm saying is, I'm like listening to him, like thinking, yeah, that vibe is raw. Like it just like it took me back a little bit to like when you just made stuff that you weren't trying to be so perfect. And this, the thing is, sometimes, and I'm one of those people, it's like you get caught up in fixing something you never would have thought to fix in the past because you can fix it. Oh, I can. And then next thing you know, you keep fixing stuff, you keep doing this, and it just never stops. It's like, I could do this better. You know?
It's like the metaphor of the painter who adds a little yellow here and there until the whole painting is yellow.
It's yellow.
Yeah.
But isn't that funny that it has become an art form in itself to focus on less?
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Yeah. To do what? To do less?
To focus on less? You know?
Well, minimize to maximize. Self-editing, it's often ignored. But
it's like you finish a track and then you listen to it the next day and then you keep wanting to change stuff and then just it turns into a pattern and eventually you ruin it. Happened to my original idea, you know.
Roland,
we had a situation like this as well, huh?
Roland, how many mixes do I do on one track?
Well, sometimes, you know, my WhatsApp in the morning, because of the time difference, the first messages I read, usually the messages Pierre sent to me when he went to bed or was still in the studio. And I get like, you know, these messages all the time. And it's like one track and then I have another version. And I'm like, hey, but I wanted to have it like, you know, the version like 10 months ago. And then,
but I always say, I still got that one though. I still got it. But I
okay,
just want to
can you say it again, please? No, but that's, I mean, that's totally amazing about you, the way you work. I never met somebody else like this. And I'm really honored to have met you. And I hope we can still, you know, keep on working together. And without your music, I wouldn't be in this call today. And I don't know what I would have become, maybe a banker or something like that.
Probably I wouldn't be in this call either.
Yeah. Same with me. Pierre, thank you so much. It was a really great honor talking to you. And you know how much you've influenced the world and all of us.
I thank you guys. I appreciate you guys even tell me these things. And you know what? You guys could pay me back by cutting the world back on next month. I want to be at some gigs. I want some stuff cracking. So I'm tired of being at this. I've been in the studio so much. I thought I'd never get tired of being in the studio. I'm like, I got to go out and play.
Well, Pierre, keep doing the thing that you're not supposed to do in the studio, and
please,
we'll all take that to heart. And I hope everybody watching is going to take that to heart as well. Thank you so much.
I think, guys.
Oh, your phone ringing again.
Yeah.
I know. Again. All right, guys.
Hey, guys, thanks so much. Pierre, it was just an honor. Really
Roland,
an honor.
thank you.
Thank you.
Roland,
thank you.
Healthy.
All right.
Guys, who do we have next week?
Peace.
Who do we have next week?
Oh, yeah. Who do we have next week?
Oh, shit. Next week we have Joey Beltram.
Oh, shit. All right.
All right. Wow.
Joey Beltram next week. See you guys.
All right, guys. Peace.
Bye.